Hi fam, welcome back again to my channel. If you are new here, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Intentional Favor, and on this channel I film videos on lifestyle, social work, studying abroad, and a lot of good stuff in between. So please feel free to join this family by clicking on the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you get notified whenever I upload new videos. And to all my amazing returning subscribers, I love you guys so much. Thank you for always coming back to watch my videos. As you've seen from the title of this video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys interview questions to expect when applying for a role in children and family social work as a newly qualified social worker. Currently, I'm a newly qualified social worker completing my ASYE, and I'm almost at the end of my ASYE program. Yeah, so exciting, and I'm so glad to be bringing this video to you guys because I have loads of experience. I actually applied to different local authorities. I think I applied to more than 6 of them, and all the interviews I did, I was successful in all. I got all the job offers. This is not me trying to exaggerate. And of course, whilst doing that, I have a list of questions here from those interviews that I've been meaning to share with you guys on this platform, and I'm so glad I'm finally doing it. The purpose of this video is not just to tell you these are the questions for you to expect. I'm going to try my best to give you guys possible answers, and in some cases, depending on what the question is, I'm going to give you guys clues on how to answer these questions during your interview. So why not give this video a thumb up already? Like the video, because I'm sure you will definitely enjoy it. And in no particular order, I'm going to start with the first question I have here, which is, tell us about a case you are so proud of. What did you do well? This particular question, I'm not surprised it's coming as my number one. I can tell you that almost every local authority that I did interview with asked me this question. One thing you should know when preparing for interviews is that some of the questions will be practical. And even in situations whereby it's not a practical question, you are expected to give examples, and those examples will come from your experience, especially your experience as a student. So in case you are watching this video, if you are still a student, one advice I will give you is to take note of your cases, okay? Just take note of the cases you are handling, and when preparing for your interviews, try as much as possible to remember this case. So you will definitely see this question. It's a very common one, a case you are proud of. So what did you do well? Think of a case that you achieved a positive outcome for a child or children you are working with, or for their families. That's an example of this case. A case that you know you did so well. A case that you got praises, that your manager, your colleagues, or even the family gave a positive feedback. Think about it. There is definitely a case like that, okay, that you are proud of. Or think of a case you would have been proud of, if that will help you. In case at that point, because one thing that helped me during my interview is that sometimes they ask me a question, especially the first interview or the first 2 that I attended. They asked me some questions like practical exam, a question like this, and I can't really think of an immediate case, but of course I can think of an imaginary case, if that makes sense. The truth is that what they want to know is that you have a good understanding of social work, and of course your practice is good, okay? So try as much as possible to remember your cases, and that is what you will readily share when you are asked this question. The second one, tell us about a case that did not go well. What went wrong and what lessons did you learn? Yeah, this is a 3-in-1 questions. Of course, the same way they asked you of a case that you are proud of, then they will ask you, what case have you handled? Give us an example of a case that you handled that didn't go so well, okay? Now, the question is, what went wrong? And what did you learn? Remember that this question is not a way for them to trick you, probably to say that you are not a good practitioner or you won't be a good practitioner. No, the major thing on this question is, what did you learn from it? Yeah, so if you say a case that didn't go well and you didn't tell them what you learned from it, then you've actually not answered this question. So you should think about a case that probably you got criticized for, a case that maybe you got a complaint, and it's not just all those malicious complaints that that parents or people put out there just because they don't like you as a social worker. But you know, the ones that you know that genuinely you made a mistake, because no one is above mistake. And the good thing is that you learn from those mistakes. Think about where, for instance, because of maybe delay, you found it difficult to manage your cases, or the cases were so much that maybe you didn't visit the kids on time and something happened, something went wrong as a result of that. It can be a situation whereby during your assessment or while working with that family, you focused only on the mom, or you focus more on the maternal side, and you forgot to involve dad or include dad. For instance, it's expected of you as a practitioner that when you are handling cases, ask about who has parental responsibility. Does the father of the child, does he have parental responsibility? And of course, if he does, there is need for him to be carried along as far as it is safe for him to be, carried along during that assessment. So it could be where you omitted speaking with maybe a father, and you focus more, which is one mistake that I think sometimes people usually make in their practice. They forget about the father, they forget about the paternal side of the family. They focus only on the mothers and the mother's side. And sometimes you find out that support networks, like sometimes the father's side, can actually provide enough support for the family to kind of solve their problem or help to minimize the risk and everything involved in that case. So it could be something like that. So just think about where you didn't do something that you were supposed to do. Probably you didn't carry out a certain check you are supposed to do, and as a result of that, there were some gaps in your assessment, or it resulted in something happening. It doesn't necessarily have to be a case that maybe a child died or something very bad happened. It could just be something that you made a mistake, you omitted to do something. And of course, also think about something like data breach. Could it be that you handled the case and you did, like, maybe you did some data breach? You shouldn't have told this person about this and you did it. It's about learning curve. And of course, be clear that this was during the first few months of your placement or something. And then come to the point that this is actually what went wrong, obviously. And then, of course, you will give them a background. And when answering all of these questions, please be very careful when it comes to probably sharing detailed information. Of course, confidentiality. Just use examples. Say this family, mom, dad. You can use like mom, dad without mentioning their names, and maybe you can say child A, child B, and not mention their name. You know that, right? So just go ahead and give them a background of the case, then tell them what went wrong. And like I said, the major thing in this question is, what did you learn? Just pick out what you actually learned from that has helped to improve your practice. And to strengthen this, you can also say that because you found out that this lesson you learned actually helped you very well in another case you handled, because you had a similar case like that, and because you've had that experience, you now did something like this, you did something like this, you did something like this, and it has helped you in your practice. So just make sure that you do all of this, and don't kind of rush your answers. Take your time, explain to them. That's what you just want to know, that you have an idea of what good practice is all about. The next question I have here is, you went on a visit, the parents wouldn't let you in. What would you do? I told you some of these questions are so practical, yeah? So you went out on a visit, the parents, they will not let you in. Of course, it has happened, I've experienced it. They opened the door and they saw it's you and they just closed the door in your face. Or maybe they from the window looked at you and they wouldn't answer. Or some of them will talk to you from outside the window and they'll be like, go away, stuff like that. And of course, you might not have experienced it, yeah? But then the question is, what would you do in that kind of situation that a parent wouldn't let you in? Of course, you wouldn't force your way in. Let me say that I'll just say something like, because in one question, they can actually find that you are so good. And let me give you like an answer that will show that you are so good. For instance, you say, yeah, that's a possibility. Okay, that will happen. You might seem like you are deviating, but this is an important point, because sometimes when stuff like this happen, it's either because it's an unannounced visit. So you can actually acknowledge that and let them know that you know what unannounced visit is. So you can say that probably when this will happen is when the visit is unannounced. Acknowledging that, of course, it can also happen in an announced visit, probably because the parents, they are not in a good mood or they are trying to hide something. But if it's an unannounced visit, of course, sometimes we need to carry out unannounced visit depending on the nature of the case. If it's a case whereby there are worries about parents drug misuse or alcohol misuse, sometimes unannounced visit will help to gather more evidence than announcing. Or maybe case of neglect and all of that, or maybe a partner who is not supposed to be having contact with the children and there is a referral that he is having contact. Such a visit can be unannounced, and when you do that unannounced visit, parents are likely not going to let you in. So when you are already in that situation, what do you do? So let's talk about what you would do in a situation like this. I think ideally you can't force your way. That's the first thing you should make the panel know, that you can't force your way in. If they are not letting you in, there's no way you can force yourself. You can't break into the house. But depending on the situation, if the mom is talking to you from inside and is ready to listen to you, you can just explain that I'm just here to discuss this referral with you. But at the same time, you have to be mindful what you say, because people are around, and for data protection purposes, some parents might even tell you that you should tell them what is in the referral. I will not do that. I won't tell them what is in the referral when I'm standing outside, because a neighbor, someone can hear that, and that could be a breach of data. Okay, so I'll be careful with that. But if they refuse, so if it's a situation whereby it's an unannounced visit because of worries like this, I will just try and step out. If they are not letting me in at all, I will leave. I'll enter my car or go somewhere private, and then I'll ring my manager and give my manager an update to say, look at what is happening, because sometimes the concern might be very serious. But just tell your manager, look at the situation, and then you will go, because you can't force yourself in. Yeah, so after telling your manager can easily tell you, okay, no worries, you come back, we'll try some other time. Or probably if the visit, for instance, is announced, they already know that social services are involved. Then if you go back to the office, or depending on the time, the following day, you might just give them a call. And when I will call them, I will acknowledge that probably they have a bad day, or apologize, sorry, I came unannounced, but I just came to discuss this with you. I just came to do this with you. Try as much as possible to build that relationship. The importance of relationship building in social work practice cannot be overemphasized. No, you can't overemphasize it. So it's usually important that when answering some questions like this, let them know that you actually are aware of other situations, what could lead to the particular situation you are in, and other surrounding situations around it. And that doesn't mean that you are going off. It just shows them your level or your wealth of knowledge and experience. The fourth question I have here says, how will you obtain the voice of the child? How would you obtain the voice of the child? Yeah, it's simple. You can also start this by telling them that the voice of the child is very, very important in social work, because they are the ones that you are there for, and they are the ones having the experience. Okay, so you need to actually listen to them. And there are different ways that you can obtain the voice of the child. One is by doing direct work with them. You have to do direct work with them. So direct work, most times it is more effective when you do it in school, for instance, away from the family home where the kids will not feel pressured. You go to school and there are so many tools that you can use to do direct work. So many of them can be found on Social Work Toolbox. I think it's a website, not I think. It's a website. When you go there, there are so many of them. A common one is 3 Houses. 3 Houses is a tool that you can use to obtain the voice of the child. 3 Houses comprises of House of Dreams, House of Good Things, and House of Worries. So you tell the child, inside here, I want you to write down for me your dreams. That way you can even initiate a conversation with them. What they tell you, you can now start a conversation. I personally like to start with House of Dreams. On the worksheet on this, the first thing there is House of Worries. But for me, I don't like starting from there. I like starting with House of Dreams, because it gives me opportunity to actually build a relationship with the child, because the child will start telling me, maybe I'll tell them, give them clues. What do you want to be when you grow up? What are your wishes? What do you wish to have that you don't have? What do you wish to do that you don't do? What are your house of dreams? What are the things that you wish for? So the kids can now, some of them will start Some of them will start saying some funny things. I want to build a mansion. I want to drive this. I want to drive this car. I want to have this. I want to live in a big house. So that they will be like, oh, really? Interesting. And some of them will tell you what they want to be. For some kids, they will tell you that they want to be a footballer. If you're a football fan or if you know something about football, ask them, so what's your football club? Which one do you support? Oh, I support this one. Do you know this? And that way, you are already building relationship. And of course, you are still obtaining their voice. Like some of them will tell you that they want to live in a bigger house. Some of them will tell you that one of their dreams is to live with their dad. Maybe dad is not living with them at the moment, or for mom and dad to stop fighting, stuff like that. So it depends on what it is, but that dream, sometimes some kids find it very interesting because it's an opportunity for them to just talk about everything they wish. Some of them will say they wish to have a toy, they wish to have this one, and just build that bond and that relationship. Then I go to the house of good things, then tell them to mention the good things or the good people in their lives. Sometimes when they start mentioning the good people, some of them will say, mommy, daddy, tell me about mommy, tell me what's so good about mommy. Then that way you can obtain their voice. Then you go to the house of worries. That's when you tell them what do they worry about. So they can just tell you something. That's one tool you can use to obtain the voice of the child. Another way you can obtain the voice of the child is actually through observation. Okay, so when you go on home visit, it's good that you are very observant. Observe the relationship between the child and the mom, or the children and their parents. Observe it. Observe their countenance. Observe how they do, how they behave, and all of that. That's another way that you can actually observe get the voice of the child. Okay, not literally just the voice. So if you want to talk about the literal voice, it's when you do direct work. When answering this question, you can also talk about the fact that it's actually good that you see them away from the family home to do direct work, because sometimes when parents are around, some children are very guarded what they say because you don't want mommy or daddy to hear. And of course, before you go to school to see the child, you can also tell them that it's very good that you've seen the child in the home, so they will know that when you come to visit them, they won't see you as a stranger. For me, whenever I go out to see kids in school, definitely I don't go out there first, except maybe it's a section 47 that we need to see them immediately in school before they get home. Okay, but rather than that, if I see them at home, how I usually start my conversation is, oh, look at you. I'll ask them, do you remember me? Do you remember my name? And all of that. Then we get talking. Okay, so that way the kids are familiar. So you can talk about the importance of meeting kids in different locations. You meet them at home. Okay, you also meet them somewhere away from home. That way you can observe them, and of course what they tell you at home might be different from what they tell you at school, because they are different environments, and the way they express themselves in those environments will differ. I think this is going to be the last question for this video, and that is, how will you work with resistant family? How will you work with resistant family? In social work, you definitely meet resistant families. So many families, okay, not so many, but some families will not want to work with social workers. One of the reasons for this is because of their previous experience with social workers. So sometimes one of the reasons why they are resistant is either they've had a first-hand experience with social workers and they judge that experience wasn't good. Maybe a child that was in care and will tell you how he or she was removed from care, and maybe the foster placement, as a child that is looked after, can tell you that they had an ugly experience and all of that. So sometimes it's not even about what they have experienced, it's about what they've heard about social workers. So people tend to be resistant. So how you will always meet them. That's why this question is important. They need to know how you will handle them. One way for me is to emphasize the importance of relationship. Okay, when a case is allocated to you, you try as much as possible to call them, communicate, introduce yourself. That is a case whereby you don't need an unannounced visit. Okay, just introduce yourself and of course explain to them your role and what you will be doing, and tell them that you would like to do this. Sometimes it's a way of building relationships. So how I will work with resistant families is to try as much as possible to build a relationship, a good working relationship with them. It can actually help. Okay, and when you are doing all of that, one thing that can also help is empathy. Sometimes sometimes social workers sometimes tend to forget this role of empathy in social work. Okay, they are human beings, and how you empathize is to acknowledge how it might be difficult for them. For instance, before going out on a case, one way you can actually, have like work with such family is that you need to read the history. Check the chronology. What do we know about this family? What do we know about this mom? What do we know about this dad? Has he or she been previously known to the local authority? You read about all of that, you gather all this information. These are the things that can actually help you, because you can understand what they will be like and where they will be coming from. You find out that sometimes when you tell a family, oh, that must be really difficult, they will tell you, yeah, very, this, but it kind of gives them a level of closure to show that you are not, just being judgmental. You understand how they feel. So relationship building, empathy, these are some of the things that can help you to work with resistant families. Okay, and of course, give them a voice. Let them own it. Don't just come and be forcing or telling them some things. Sometimes, one way that can help to work with resistant families is when you go there. For instance, you do some work with them. What are we worried about? So try and make sure and ask them to know if they understand the worries of social care. Some of them will acknowledge it and tell you, no, yeah, I understand you are worried. I understand you are worried. And then also ask them, so how do you think we can actually deal with this? So it's just like giving them that voice and working with them. And one way that you can actually do this is by involving their support network with their consent, of course, to just tell them that you actually want them to come up with a plan, because it's not like you are so interested in staying with them for the rest of their lives. You will want them to come up with solutions. So giving them that voice and knowing that they are also part of it, like you want them to be involved. So families can come up with their own plan. Sometimes you find out that safety plan, they are the ones that will come up with it. Okay, this is how we will do it. No, you won't be drinking when you have the kids under your care, or you won't do this or you won't do that. When you do that kind of work with them, carry them along in your assessment and working with them, there's always emphasis that we work with people, we don't work for them. So you work with them. So that working with families can also be a way to work with resistant families, and that way you build a good relationship with them, you build trust. Another way to work with resistant families is that please don't make unnecessary promises. Avoid making promises to them. Okay, and of course, always stick to your words. If you find out that a family is resistant, if you tell them that you'll be visiting them by 5 p.m., please be there. Don't come a minute past 5, because some of these families, they can be so picky. Okay, be careful what you say to them. That's another way. You should be careful what you say to them, and don't make promises. Don't get their hopes so high, because if it happens and you disappoint them, then they can be more difficult. So guys, with that, I think I've come to the end of this segment or this part of this video, and I want to believe that you found it helpful. Just watch out for the second part of this video, and definitely there will be a part 3 or more, because I'm going to be sharing with you guys questions to expect during your social work interview, and I want to believe you found this video helpful. Please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, like this video, share it with as many people that you think might need it, subscribe to the channel if you have not, and turn on the notification bell so that you get notified whenever I upload new videos. And until I come your way next time, stay blessed, remain intentional, and take good care of yourselves. Bye.